Well, hello. Today's lesson has to do with getting some important jots, which are your creative own notes about something that can lead you in the right direction as far as reading and writing. All right, so the other day I talked about my favorite book, and it was Charlotte's Web. Still is, because it was just so important to me as a kiddo, learning to read and really getting into a book by myself. So remember that I went back and I reread this book. And so what I want to do with you now is I want to jot down some important things about the book. And remember, I had this stuff the other day too. These are kind of like my little jots, if you will. And I talked about a variety of books and authors that I like. And for Charlotte's Web, which is the one I'm going to focus in on, because the prompt is, or the question is, what is your favorite book? And for me, I would have to still say Charlotte's Web, because it was a starter for me. It was a big deal. And I have listed the characters, Fern, Charlotte, and Wilbur. Fern is the little girl. Charlotte is the spider, and Wilbur is the runt little pig. And I also had some other things about Charlotte's Web. I said that I got so engaged in it. And then, the axe. Papa has the axe in the beginning, the dad, and the time was summer and it seemed relaxing. And then finding out more about spiders, I thought that was something I kind of paid attention to later on when I did the reread, but probably not as much when I was a kid. All right, so here's where I'm going to go with this. I want to really think about how I feel, like the things that I notice and the things that I think about this book. And so I want to give it here where you can see, in your notebooks, and I'm going to want you to do this for a book that you're choosing as your favorite. I'm just going to kind of have a little fun first, because I just like to do that. All right. All right, so this is Charlotte's Web. All right. It's been a while since I drew a spider web, but this may not look like a web. It could end up looking like who knows what. But you get the idea. Okay. So we've got the little Charlotte's Web. Sorry, I'm not much of a drawer. And it's by E.B. White, so I suppose I could add that as well. All right, by E.B. White. And one of the first things that I have to say, as something that attracted me to this book and just made me really enjoy it, are the characters. But also, I think from the get-go, I just got really engaged in it. In other words, like I was into the book. I was excited about it from the start. So I'm going to organize my thoughts here a little bit. Let's just use this color. All right, so I'm going to kind of line this up in annotation lines. Now, I'll talk to you about exactly what that is in a minute, but I noticed, doesn't matter, and I think. All right, so one of the first things that I notice, like I said, is that it got really interesting from the beginning. So I've got Dad with an axe. An axe can be spelled either way, I think nowadays, AX or AXE, but in this book it's AX. And I thought it was crazy because Fern argues with Dad. And we know that if Dad's a disciplinarian, that doesn't happen very often, or even Mom too, but whoever, in this case, Dad. You don't want to argue with Mom, Dad too much. And then it's cool to me that Fern keeps Wilbur. She has to take care of Wilbur. All right. So that's just something I notice. All right, and here's what I think about it. I think this is what got me into the book. Like, it grabbed me. I was in it from the get-go. I thought how awful it is that this dad is going to kill a pig because it's small. Who knows? Maybe it's because I'm tiny too. You know, I'm a shorty. So maybe that had something to do with it. So that is where I'm at with that piece. All right. The next part, keep all my markers going. Mrs. Warren will be happy with me. She's all into the markery thing. She's very good at it. Okay, so the next thing that I noticed is that there were these characters. All right, so I noticed Fern, who is the little girl. All right, and of course Charlotte, who is the spider. And it just cracks me up. You know, this, like, I'm normally when I was a kid, I was afraid of spiders. It kind of grossed me out. But I just think it's interesting that, you know, I ended up loving this spider in this book. All right, so Fern, Charlotte, and Wilbur. Gotta love Wilbur. All right, he's the runt. All right, the pig. And this is what I think. I love them. I love all three of these characters. And I think that's why I was so drawn to them. Totally. All right, and then this is the other thing, and I mentioned this the other day. This was the first like real chapter book I remember just reading it all by myself, and I had such success with it. So this isn't something from the book that I noticed. This is just something about me that I noticed. And what I noticed is I wanted to read more. I mean, I just really wanted to read. And so that is something I think made me love the book. It built confidence in me. It made me a stronger reader because I wasn't afraid to go out and try to read. All right, so stronger, confidence. All right, those things. And I think that every kiddo needs a book like this in their life. I hope that you have had a book like that. I'm sure that at least you've had one that you think is your favorite. So I have kind of lined this up with the I notice, I think. These are annotation lines. I better go back to that. So let me, I would like to have black. I don't have a black here. Let's just use purple. All right, well, I'll just use the blue that I originally used. So this is what I want to show you, that this whole thing is an annotation line. All right, there's another name they're calling them too, besides line. It's still annotation. Annotation row. All right, I believe some of the teachers call them annotation rows. Same thing, you know. All right, then we have this annotation line or row, and we have this annotation line or row. All right, and what's interesting is I think that I've done some pre-writing here. And you guys are probably used to the words hamburger writing. All right, so I'm going to relate it to that just because I feel like you're familiar with it, and your other content subjects might say to you, hey, write a hamburger paragraph. But all that means is coming up with 3 reasons and details, you know, and then put your topic sentence as well as your concluding sentence with a summary and a parting thought. All right, so I did a little homework. You'll be proud of me. You could, I'm going to move this out of the way and hope this works for me. Look there. All right, so this gives you the little visual of a hamburger writing. And you can see it's got the topic sentence, the main idea, supporting detail with reasons, and that can be evidence. It's helpful to have evidence to prove your point. Another supporting detail, a second one. And so they kind of relate it to like having your lettuce and having the tomato, maybe cheese if you have an extra one, your hamburger patty, and then the conclusion, which is your bottom bun. And try to remember two things should always be in that conclusion. All right. Try to include a summary of your three detailed reasons, or three details, and then also try to give a little parting thought. It adds a little juice to the end. All right, so this is the one that I wrote. Like I said, I did my homework. All right, and I color coded it for you to maybe help you see where the top bun is. All right, which is your start. All right, and then where the first reason is, or detail, in green, like the lettuce. And then the red is the tomato, and it's the next detail and reason. And then the dark brown is the hamburger patty. And that is supposed to be your third detail and reason. And then, of course, the bottom bun, which is the conclusion. So here we go. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White is my favorite book for several reasons. From the start, the book grabs my attention when Papa has an axe and Fern is told he needs it because some pigs were born last night. Another reason is the characters. Fern, the girl Charlotte, the spider, and Wilbur, the rump pig saved by Fern, are lovable. Fern, Charlotte, and Wilbur all take turns saving one another in some way throughout the story. No spoiler alert. Furthermore, the most important reason this book is my favorite is because it helped me build confidence in my own reading at a young age. It is a chapter book, and I remember reading and understanding it all by myself. Charlotte's Web is exciting from the beginning, has lovable characters, and builds independence for readers at a young age. Everyone needs to find a meaningful book at a young age. What is your favorite book? All right, so let's just go back and talk about it briefly. I do think it's important to say what the title and the author is in that topic sentence because the prompt is, what is your favorite book? So I want to be very clear. And I don't know that you necessarily have to tell all those detailed reasons in the topic sentence. Several reasons. Several is usually three. A few is usually three. You could say few reasons. And then my first detail in the backing up reason. From the start, it's kind of like my transition into it. The book grabs my attention. When Papa has an axe and Fern is told he needs it because some pigs were born last night. All right, so let me just use one of my pointers here. Let's try the light. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because I have a light. Maybe not. Okay, okay, guys, I don't know. Okay, I'm not working that right. I don't know what my problem is. But to just go on, what I wanted to point out to you is that the detail is that the book grabs my attention. And then I back it up with reasons. He has an axe. Papa has an axe. And Fern is told he needs it because some pigs were born last night. That's evidence. I have it in quotation marks. I actually took it right out of the book. And you can see it. Oops, I got to flip back. Let me just do it real quick because I want you to see this in the book. Sorry about that. But notice it says right here, some pigs were born last night. All right, so I just felt it was important to weave in a little evidence. And there's different ways to put in evidence, and we'll talk about that as the year goes along. So then my next detail and reason, another reason is the characters, Fern the girl, Charlotte the spider, and Wilbur the rump pig, saved by Fern, are lovable. Fern, Charlotte, and Wilbur all take turns saving one another in some way throughout the book. No spoiler alert. Now, in this case, my detail is the characters, just who they are. And why? Because I love them. Remember, that was on my jot. Oops, sorry. You can see the little heart, right? Because I just loved them. And it's because they cared so much about each other. And this is not evidence. These quotation marks are because I am emphasizing that they were saving one another. That's kind of like an emphasis. And I didn't want to tell you any more than that because it would spoil the story. In case I have anybody out there who hasn't read the book and wants to, then you can. Furthermore, so transition, the most important reason this book is my favorite is because it helped me build confidence in my own reading at a young age. All right, so that came from my notes as well. All right, my Jots, and it made me want to read. And then I get into the part about I understood it. It was a chapter book, and I remember reading and understanding it all by myself. So I comprehended it. And then my bottom bun. All right. And remember, I'm going to summarize my 3 main points and kind of give a little parting thought, something to think about as you leave as a reader. Charlotte's Web is exciting from the beginning, has lovable characters, and builds independence for readers at a young age. Everyone needs to find a meaningful book at a young age. What is your favorite book? All right. So hopefully you enjoyed that. One other thing to point out, notice that I underlined Charlotte's Web. Typically when you type, you have the italics that you can use for book titles. But because of the font I used, which I thought was cute, it didn't quite show up, so I underlined it instead. And underlining is another way that you can show that it's a book. So if it's a book title, all right, then you should either underline it or put italics. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. So what you're going to do now is you are going to think about what your favorite book is, and you need to jot some annotation lines about why it's your favorite book. Start out with what you notice and then what you think about that. And that's what you can put in for the details and reasons of your paragraph. All right, it's like you're pre-writing. All right, I hope that I've tied this all together for you. And if you have any questions, I am going to make sure that you have a picture of my notes, my Jots. I'm going to make sure that you have this paragraph as well as the picture all in this folder. All right, so the expectation is that you are going to do your own annotation lines and write your own paragraph. All right, and I hope you're not hungry after this since it's hamburger writing. All right, guys, take care.